if you're watching online, then you can access the source sheet. If you go to the VBS calendar event, you can click on tonight's class and find the source sheet there. Or if you're on YouTube, in the description of the YouTube video, you can find a link to the source sheet there as well. So I like to start with the blessing for Torah study. Oh, I should have kept one of each of the, here, thank you, thank you. And I am going to put this beautiful display out here. We're going to get to it shortly. And, but before we get to that, I'm going to cover it up, and you'll see why. But before we get to anything, I always start with the blessing for Torah study. So if you've gotten it, it's the one that looks like this, and if you haven't, you will shortly. Because whenever we get together, whenever we do anything, and we're going to talk about that when it comes to food, whenever we do anything, it always starts with a blessing and sometimes even ends with a blessing. You know the only exception to that, I don't know why I keep talking about this, the only exception, we don't bless before but we bless after, is going to the bathroom, which makes sense. You don't want to have to make a blessing before, but there is a blessing for after. But okay, let's start with the blessing for Torah study, and I like to sing it, so if you know it, join in. Nai, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah la'asok b'divrei Torah hafoch ba vehafoch ba la'asok b'divrei Torah. Nai, 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 nai. Does everyone have one of these source sheets? We're still making its way around, maybe? Okay. Well, it's okay if you don't have it yet, because what I want to ask you all to start off with doing is closing your eyes or going to a soft gaze, as we say. So either close your eyes, or if you're not comfortable with that, just sort of unfocus a little bit your eyes. And I want you to try and think about a time in your life, it could be when you were a young child, or it could have been yesterday, that you had a meal that either someone else prepared for you, it could have been a parent, a relative, a family member, maybe one of your children, or a meal you prepared for yourself. Or you even could have gone out to a restaurant, because some chefs know how to do this. But there was something about the food that told a story. Maybe it even started with how the food smelled or how the food looked. So all your senses were engaged, but especially how the food tasted, whether it was salt or whether it was sweet, whether it was a crispy, crunchy food or a soft food, a liquid, a soup. How did it taste going down? How did it look? How did it smell? How did it feel when you touched the food? Did you eat it with your hands, or did you use a fork, a spoon, a knife? Maybe you used chopsticks, which is something I still need to learn how to use if anyone wants to teach me. And what story did it tell? Maybe if it was a parent or a grandparent, it told a story about where they came from if it wasn't from here. Or maybe if it was your child cooking for you, it was a story about an experience they had. Maybe you were traveling somewhere and it was a story about a place where you were traveling. Or maybe it was a story of being Jewish, because what we're going to look at is how our Jewish foods tell the stories of our people. And we can especially think of a time maybe that we were at a Seder. And especially one big example that's standing out to me about food telling a story at a Seder is when we dip the parsley, the karpas, in the salt water, and we think about the tears of slavery, or we eat the bitter herbs, the maror, and think of the bitterness of slavery, or the charoset, which tells the story of the bricks. There's so much imagery in the food of a Passover Seder that tells stories. So take another moment to sort of think of the meal either from your childhood or from yesterday, and anywhere in between, where you had a meal that told a story. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I wanted to do that exercise just for you to keep to yourselves. But if anyone at any point wants to share about that or an experience they've had with food telling a story, or specifically Jewish food telling a story, I would be really interested in hearing about that. So at any point anyone wants to share anything, we have a mic here that will get passed around, especially so people online can hear, but also so we can all hear each other. So it's on, and we can pass it around if you want to share. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Wonderful. And would you like to share? Okay, so here, wait. Can you? Your first up. Thank you so much.
When people raise their hand.
Yeah. We have our first hand up.
It's not untypical, but when I was 3, my parents bought a house, and there was a family next door that had girls the same age.
Uh-huh.
And at some point we started celebrating Hanukkah together, and we are still celebrating Hanukkah. So the meal is the latkes, and there's, between us we have 7 kids.
Wow.
And 3 of them are married.
Wow.
Almost 4, and there's 1 grandbaby now, and so the meal's really friendship.
Oh, wow. So there's a story of friendship and community and relationship with one another. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's also so interesting that there's the friendship and relationship and community, but also the latke, right? And the olive oil is telling the story of Hanukkah as well. So it's
my daughter has done that with my mom for years. So
yeah.
When she just moved into her house, she kept the electric frying pan.
Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I was just going to talk about, I remember growing up and doing all the Jewish holidays with my grandparents, and my grandmother, for as long as I ever knew, made gefilte fish.
Oh.
And so, God, how long ago was it? Maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I had her come over.
Yeah.
And everything was a pinch of this, a pinch of that, but I made her stop and I measured everything.
Oh, so smart.
I have the whole recipe, and she died shortly after that.
Wow.
So I got the recipe, but it just always brings back those memories and the smells and the flavors. I hate fish.
Oh,
but I always...
But that gefilte fish, do you love that gefilte fish?
I loved the gefilte fish. Totally different than in a jar.
I get that.
So that always, for every holiday, that's the first thing I go to,
Yeah.
and especially when I'm making it,
Yeah.
you're mushing everything up, and
Yeah.
just the smells and the taste and everything.
First of all, that's so smart, and that's such good advice. If for anyone who has anyone still who says, "Oh, it's a pinch of this, a pinch of that," to actually measure what their pinches actually
she would
mean.
go to put it in, and
So
I'd like, "Stop,
smart.
put it in," and she had it in her hand,
So-
and I would sit there with the measuring.
So smart, so smart. And also bringing it back to that, the story of relationship and family and connection and community, and wow, it's such a beautiful thing of how sharing food, because I'm thinking like the stories of our people, but part of the stories of our people is that we're a people, we're a family, mishpacha. That's, or whether, even if it's friends or family, however it shows up in our lives, it's the relationship building. Yeah.
When my granddaughter was 3 months old,
Yeah.
it was Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
And she was named after her 2 great grandmothers. Right? Yeah, 2 great grandmothers. And so for the Rosh Hashanah dinner, part of it was one grandmother's noodle kugel and the other grandmother's plum cake
Oh,
that they
wow.
both made all the time.
Wow.
And we put the 2 things on the floor and put her right in the middle.
so she
and
could
took
do-
a picture of her with everything from the great grandmothers.
Oh, that's so sweet. Wow. So this is the third one. This is the theme I'm seeing of relationships. That the food builds relationships.
I
Yeah.
have to go back to the gefilte fish. My grandmother used to make the gefilte fish too, but it was sweet gefilte fish, and then she'd make the chain, and it would be really like go in your nose.
Yeah.
But the one thing I remember is on Rosh Hashanah, my dad made the brisket. It was his recipe.
Wow.
He must have gotten it from my grandma,
Yeah.
his mom. He was a great cook. And he passed that recipe down to me, and I remember the one time I tried to make it, but my brother now makes that every Rosh Hashanah, and when I go back to Maryland, if he's making that and I smell that, it reminds me of when I was a kid. And I was
Wow.
growing up, and he makes it for my niece and nephew and his kids, and that has been passed down.
Wow. That's so beautiful, and still on the theme of these relationships, I think, right? And by the way, gefilte fish, I love gefilte fish. I unfortunately developed a fish allergy in my 20s, which some allergies, if you develop in your 20s or later in life, can cycle every 7 years. So in my 20s, I developed, personal share, I developed a fish allergy and a citrus allergy. After 7 years, the citrus allergy went away, thank God. But the fish allergy I still have, but I'm hoping in the next cycle it'll go away because I miss gefilte fish so much. Okay, were you, yeah.
I actually always think of the smells of chicken soup and fresh dill and the soup cooking on the stove at my grandmother's or my mother's. And I do the same thing. And I just, for me, that's comfort food, and the smells of the past and the future, because I still carry that forward.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, and because we're thinking every sense, because we're talking about how it smells and how it looks and how it feels and how it tastes, every sense gets engaged. Even here, like when you hear the soup bubbling, my mom, when she makes chicken soup, which I've been vegetarian now for 3 years, and but I love her chicken soup. I miss it. My sister's a vegetarian. She's a pescatarian. She's not allergic to fish, and her one exception is she eats chicken soup. And I'm like, maybe I'll make that exception, but the bubbling scent, my mom makes a joke of like, her pot of chicken soup has to boil over and then she knows it's ready, which is like her, kind of a joke. But yeah, the soup, also what you were saying about passing it down from your grandmother to your mother to you, and like in my family too, it's like that. And my mom has passed, even I'm not eating it right now, but she's passed that down, the recipe she makes, to me and my sister. And that it's connection to friends, to family, but also through the generations. And yeah.
So my late mother-in-law, who was my late husband's mother, was born in Jerusalem and came from a tradition of stuffed vegetables. So she invented a dish she named hafesh, which means freedom, for Passover, which is basically meat-stuffed rhubarb recipe cooked in a sweet and sour tomato sauce. So when we moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles, I come from a very secular background. We had a Seder, and I was trying to figure out how to have a baby, how to have a kitchen that was Pesach, how to make all of this work. She's like, I have to show you how to make hafesh, which is very labor intensive. I mean, it's cutting the rhubarb, it's peeling the rhubarb, it's extremely labor intensive. And being who she would show up in the morning and say, "Where's the rye bread?" Because I have to have breakfast. So for years, this was the tradition.
Wow.
And increasingly, I still make hafesh.
Wow.
I still make hafesh. She would complain bitterly about her niece, who would make lazy hafesh. she would just like layer the meat and layer the rhubarb, and put the tomato sauce on. And at this point, there were people who will not come for Seder if I don't make hafesh. And we have to provide doggy bags. But the funniest hafesh moment was when I met Malcolm.
Yeah.
So our first Passover, I said, he was coming to my Seder, and I said, you're going to have something really special. It's this really special family recipe. And it's called hafesh, and it's stuffed rhubarb. He said, I've had it. And I'm like, no, you might think you've had it.
Yeah.
You have not had it.
Okay.
He's like, no, I'm sure I've had it.
Okay.
So Malcolm had been the executive director of a synagogue in Minneapolis. Rabbi Harold Kravitz and his wife Cindy Rich. When I was program director at Adad Ariel, the sisterhood created a book many people you might have, California Kosher.
That's right.
And my recipe for hafesh is in California Kosher. And Cindy makes
Yeah.
hafesh.
Oh.
And indeed, Malcolm had hafesh
Wow.
in Minneapolis.
Wow.
So Cindy and I now consult every year because it's not always rhubarb season
Okay,
during
sure.
Passover.
Right.
So we sort of do our rhubarb hunt together.
Ah,
But
okay.
it's my mother-in-law is alive and well, and every
Yeah.
time I look at rye bread, I think of her.
Right, and it's such a beautiful way to keep people alive.
And now she makes chofesh, vegetarian chofesh.
Okay.
And she makes chofesh for those Californians who don't eat gluten.
Okay.
'Cause-
Oh no.
yeah, but she tries to please everyone.
Wow. I have California kosher. I should look for that recipe, but maybe you can tell me the vegetarian spin. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and also you said like how she came from Jerusalem and chofesh, freedom, and the connection to the story of Passover. And again, going back to the story of our people. So I see two themes coming up. Is the theme that has been coming up from what everyone in here is sharing about the relationships, whether with friends, with family, with the living, and with those who have gone, but it's a way to keep their memories alive. And the connection, all of it, underneath the undertone of all of it is the stories of our people, right? Whether the Hanukkah or the Passover or even just chicken soup on Shabbat or gefilte fish, which you can eat any time of year. It's all connected to the stories of our people. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your stories. And your story also reminded me of something about my grandmother, my mother's mother, my Savta Esther. She, most of my grandparents, they were from Russia. Their families were from Russia, but my Savta Esther, her family was from Hungary, and she made this really great potato dish with some paprika on it and this whole thing. And I remember when I was in elementary school, we had a food fair that connected with where our ancestors came from. And so I made this Hungarian potato dish that my grandmother taught me how to make when I was in elementary school, which is so special because she passed when I was in high school, so that I was able to have that learning from her. I'm really grateful that my elementary school had us do that fair, that food fair, that where are you from food fair, because this is also reminding me I want to make that potato dish. It's inspiring me to do all this cooking, with all the time we have in preparations for high holidays. I'm sure I'll get to it. But thank you all so much for sharing those stories. Now, you all have in front of you, and if you're in a front row, you can look behind you, Siddur Sim Shalom. So before we even get to the source sheet, I want you to take out your Siddur Sim Shalom and turn to page 228, 229. So I'm sure many of us are familiar with the blessings before eating. I think probably all of us are familiar with the blessing before eating bread. We, in fact, have a cute song that we sing with the preschoolers with the blessing before bread. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Sound familiar? We give thanks to God for bread, right? Which I learned, we do it in California, the English part, we do it one way, and then in other parts of the country, they sing the English parts a little differently. So, as a California person, I'm broadening my horizons by learning that. But, so why do we have a blessing before eating bread? And then if you look on 229, you say the blessing before eating bread. If bread is a part of your meal, even if on Shabbat we're encouraged to have like at least an olive portion size of challah, if you can leave it at that, good for you. But if you even have an olive size portion of challah, you can say the blessing for bread. And then every other blessing on page 229, you have to make a decision. And there's all this discussion in the Jewish law codes about, by the way, when we said doing Jewish food, there were like 1,000 directions this could have gone in, of course. If Rabbi Kushlin was here, maybe it would have been more about keep kashrut. And if I don't know how many of you know he's a shochet, a Jewish, a kosher animal slaughter, ritual slaughterer. And so he might have shown you his knives, which some of you in here may have seen his knives. So there's so much conversation in Jewish law about food. So one is kashrut and how we kill animals when we're going to eat them, and which animals we do, which animals we don't, all of that. And then there's also in the Jewish law codes a whole lot of discussion about the blessings we make over food. So I just want to look at that it's not going to be our focus, but I want to look at it in the context of what we're going to talk about when we talk about Rosh Hashanah related food. So the Jewish law codes talk about when you're eating a meal, what is the main part of the meal and what are the side parts of the meal. And that's how you determine what blessing you say, because you see there's all these different blessings. There's on 229, Borei minei mezonot, you see it says, before eating foods made of the 5 grains of Israel, wheat, barley, oats, rye, or spelt. Before eating fruit, you say Borei pri ha'etz. Before eating vegetables, you say Borei pri ha'adama, but there's always the like funny things where you're like, why do I say Borei pri ha'etz on that one and Borei pri ha'adama on that one? And there's all kinds of discussions about that. But you know what? There was one night, I sometimes struggle to sleep, and there was one night recently where I was looking up whether tomatoes are a fruit or a vegetable. And of course, it depends who you ask and why you're asking and all of that. So there's similar conversations in the Talmud and in Halakha and the Jewish law codes, all of that. Then before drinking wine or grape juice, Borei pri hagafen. And then if you're drinking other liquids or there's other foods that don't fall into any of the above categories, you say Shakol Ni'abid Varo. And then if you're eating a food that you haven't tasted since the previous season or a food you've never tried before, you say She'achiyanu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh, which is a prayer we say for so many different new occasions. But you know about She'achiyanu, it's a new occasion that you want to happen again. Which is why you don't say, or traditionally you don't say She'achiyanu at a wedding, because the hope is that, well, then maybe, yeah. And then if you turn the page, you have Birkat Hamazon on 230, and that goes on for many pages because we don't only say a blessing before we eat, which, by the way, talking about stories, when we say the blessing before we eat, it's telling a story of where the food came from. And also in the Talmud, it also talks about how part of the reason we're saying the blessing is there is some amount of, this is getting into the Jewish legal side of things a little bit, so we don't have to go too deep there, but it's interesting, I think, to me, and I don't know if there's lawyers in the room, but my father's a retired lawyer. But there's something legal. There's this legalistic thing about how when God creates, when it's growing in the ground, there's some ownership to God, and then when we take it and we process it into all the foods that we're going to eat, we say the blessing to transfer the ownership onto the human so that we can derive the benefit. So there's this all interesting legal conversations in Talmud and Halakha about these blessings before. And then we go to the blessings after. And if it's Shabbat or Yom Tov, a holiday, or Rosh Chodesh, even a new month, or any joyous occasion, a wedding, let's say, Shir HaMalot, we sing this about Adonai restoring our exiles to Zion on 230. And then 231, we get into the paragraph, and there's also in the Talmud, a whole lot of explanation about the blessings we say after. And then on Hanukkah, we say something special. In the Birkat HaMazon on Purim, we say something special. If it's a Shabbat or Rosh Chodesh or holiday, there's all these special things you say after you eat. And I think part of the reason I just want to talk about the blessings before and after, you can, if you want to keep your siddur out, you can, or you can put it away. But the reason I just wanted to start with bringing our attention to the blessings is that I've been thinking a lot about this when I talk about, and how we open and how we talked about how food both tells the story of our people and also is this relationship building tool. There's something about that happening alongside the blessings before and after in our tradition that nowadays people would refer to it as mindful eating or intentional eating, that we definitely, before you eat, you want to acknowledge where it comes from and take on that ownership so you can derive benefit from it, but also acknowledge, and there's a practice of gratitude, like, thank you that I can eat today, because not everybody can, which we'll get into when we talk about the other side of high holidays, which is Yom Kippur and the fast. But there's a mindfulness before and a mindfulness after, because it's not just, there's a beginning and an end. Every good story has a beginning and an end, right? So the same thing for a meal. It has a beginning and an end, and it starts with a blessing and it ends with a blessing. So I wanted to have our awareness, one of the concepts people like to talk about in Jewish thought is the both and, holding two things. And I think that we hold the wonderful memories we make with food and the stories we tell with food, and we also want to have this mindfulness around it, and also a mindfulness of our own bodies and our health, because there's all kinds of stuff about how we treat our bodies as Jews. So we're going to actually start, I know Rosh Hashanah comes first and Yom Kippur comes second, but commentators say in the Torah, and so I want to open it up to and in Torah learning. There's a phrase, "Ein mukdamu me'ochar b'Torah." There's no early or late in the Torah. There's no linear time. So I'm going to flip it, and we're going to start with the Yom Kippur fast, and then we're going to move to Rosh Hashanah. So because it's a fast, I have this Rosh Hashanah, the simanim, the food of Rosh Hashanah. I'm covering it up so we don't see the food while we talk about the fast. So there's sort of two parts of the story of the fast that I want to talk about. And one is, why do we do it? Now, we have so many fasts on the Jewish calendar. We call them, other than Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, we call them minor fasts. But it doesn't mean they're not important. What it means is how long we fast for. But on Yom Kippur, we fast for 25 hours, right? And where does it come from? There's, in the Torah, there's several verses in the Torah that talk about Yom Kippur and what we should be doing. And the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Talmud and the later Jewish law, the legal minds of our ancestors, they took us through what we're supposed to be doing on Yom Kippur, where our attention is supposed to be, and they came up with these things that we should be refraining from, and one of them is food. So why are we refraining from food and drink? And should we, all of us, all the time, always refrain from food and drink on Yom Kippur? I talked to a lot of bar and bat mitzvah students, and they are, I talk about what does it mean to become a Jewish adult, and they talk about taking on the commandments, and one of the ones that a lot of them talk to me about, and some of them in the year leading up to their bar and bat mitzvah want to practice, is the fast of Yom Kippur, because it's such a big, momentous part in the year in our calendar, in the Jewish calendar. That sometimes, I'll encourage them if they want to practice to do like a half a day, see how it feels, but always listening to your bodies. So, which we're going to get into shortly. But before we get to listening to our bodies, I want us to talk about learning from our bodies. So the first source I want to talk about comes from Isaiah, one of our prophets from somewhere between the 8th to 5th century BCE. It's, when it comes to the Tanakh, our Bible, it's a little hard to date exactly, but we read this on Yom Kippur, and he asks us to think about why we're fasting. And he says it in a very typical prophet way, which is a little bit critical, which makes the assumption that we're not necessarily doing our best. But the idea of what he says, why don't we read, would someone like to read the English, and then we'll unpack what Isaiah means a little bit? Does anyone want to read Isaiah? Thank you. So we're on page 1 of the source sheet under where it says Isaiah.
Is such the fast I desire, a day for people to starve their bodies? Is it bowing the head like a bulrush and lying in sackcloth and ashes? Do you call that a fast, a day favorable to Adonai? No, this is the fast I desire, to unlock fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It is to share your bread with the hungry and to take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to ignore your own kin.
Thank you. So you might read this and think, oh, great. Well, we don't have to fast, right? Because Isaiah says that that's not what God says God wants, right? God wants us to do all these things and doesn't care so much if we're eating or not. What God cares about is that we're letting the oppressed go free. God cares about us sharing our bread with the hungry, with those who don't necessarily have the access to bread and food and drink that we have. But I think there's a lot of commentary on Isaiah that says, well, before I say what the commentary says, what are your reactions? Do you think reading this, and you may be familiar with it, hearing it on Yom Kippur, and maybe you've heard people talk about this before on Yom Kippur, do you think like Isaiah is saying, oh, don't worry, you don't need to fast? Or why might we still fast even though Isaiah is explaining to us what God really wants. Why might it be a helpful practice? What story are we learning by refraining from food and drink for 25 hours? Any thoughts on that? Yeah, sure.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's to see that we're able to control that part of us, whereas others have other things that they're not as fortunate as us. Maybe we have to think that we are always fortunate to be able to have food, but at this time we choose not to eat, and it's not easy for us.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. It's something about, there's some connection that's made when we refrain from eating with the people who don't have the access to food that we have, right? Any other thoughts on why it's still worth it to fast? Please, if you want to get back in the...
Maybe it's because he says it's not this kind of fast, it's this other kind of fast that I want you to do.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not specifically,
Oh.
he's not saying you shouldn't fast, he's saying the fast has to mean something other than what you think it might mean.
Right.
That's what I see.
Right. So not saying, Isaiah's not saying don't fast. Isaiah's saying when you do fast, it has to mean something. It has to matter, right?
Not because you're rending your clothes and
Right.
brushing your teeth. It's
Right.
because you're seeing what's out there. And
Right.
to try to give tzedakah to these other less
Right.
fortunate people.
Right. So,
Aware of that.
right. When we fast, we learn. It's this experiential. There's so much in Judaism that's experiential storytelling, right? And so we're learning the story of the people who don't have food, or the people who are not free, or the people who don't have housing, or the people who don't have clothes. We're learning what it is to not have. And if we're able, I'm sorry that on high holidays you have to get tickets and it's expensive, or you have to be members and whatever. And so if you're able to be in this building on high holidays, hopefully, we hope that you have your basic needs taken care of. And by the way, if you wouldn't on your own have your own basic needs taken care of, just by being part of this community, we hope that people that need help reach out. We have a VBS food bank, which is an amazing thing that we have. We have all kinds of opportunities of helping when people do need help with basic needs. But if you're in this community and you're engaging in this fast, either you have some way of getting your basic needs met, right? Hopefully, we hope. And if not, let us know and we'll help you get that. But this practice, this ritual, is telling our bodies the story of what it feels like, just for 25 hours, what it feels like to not have food in your body, not have drink. I have been, before I was a rabbi, my sister and I, it was something that our mom and aunt did for a long time. We would lead high holidays, we were cantorial soloists at UCLA Hillel for many years, and to sing through Yom Kippur, through 25 hours singing with no water even, like that I'm learning, every year I'm learning the story of what it means to be thirsty, right? So there's that. Did someone else want to add to our thoughts on Isaiah? Oh, okay, great. Okay, so she'll give you if anyone wants to add anything at any time, raise your hand, you'll get the mic. So we're learning the story through our bodies. We're learning the story of what it's like to not have. And just for that short amount of time, we can, hopefully it's a strong enough experience that throughout the rest of the year, when we see someone at the freeway off-ramp who's asking for something, we remember to keep some food in our car, like a bar. My mom raised me to do this, to keep a protein bar in my car and offer it to someone if they have a sign on the side of the road, or a bottle of water. So anything you can keep in your car, just to say, it was hard to not eat for 25 hours. It was hard to not drink for 25 hours. And who knows the last time this person has had a meal. I think you can survive 3 days without water. That's what I keep hearing. And maybe a little bit longer than that without food. Or the other way around. Oh, you need food. Oh, you need water. Well, either way, you have a short window of time. You have a short window of time, but it is, thank God, more than 25 hours, which is why it's generally safe for us to go 25 hours without eating and drinking. That being said, that moves us into the next section, which is that it's not necessary. Spoiler alert, I'll just get to the point. It's not always safe for us to go 25 hours without eating or drinking, not for all of us. So in addition to learning from our bodies, our tradition is also teaching us the story of listening to our bodies. And I love this teaching so much because every year, every rabbi I know, including me, gets a call. Rabbi, I had a really difficult year with my health. I'm really not doing well. The doctors are telling me that I can't fast on Yom Kippur, but I've been fasting on Yom Kippur for 77 years. How can I not fast on Yom Kippur? Every single Jewish text I've ever seen says you must listen to your doctors. But you know what else? What's even cooler to me about these texts? Listening to your doctors is great, and it's wisdom we have even from the Mishnah. That's the first source we have from around 200 CE. Even from 200 CE, they're saying listen to your doctor. If your doctor tells you have to eat or drink on Yom Kippur. But even if you're, so let's read it because you'll see it doesn't only say that. There's even more to it. Can someone read the Mishnah? And let's go through, actually, I want us to read the Mishnah in English and then the next two sources on page 2. So can someone read on the bottom of page 1, under where it says Mishnah Yoma? It's sources that build on top of each other. So does someone want to read? Okay, great. The mic's behind you. Oh, thank you. Okay.
If a person is ill and requires food due to potential danger, one feeds the person according to the advice of medical experts who determine that the person indeed requires food. And if there are no experts there, one feeds the person according to the person's own instructions until the person says that the person has eaten enough and needs no more.
Thank you. So I didn't put the context, but this is from Mishnah Yoma, which is a Mishnah about Yom Kippur. And it's talking about if, on fasting on Yom Kippur, if the person is sick, and the medical experts say feed the person, you feed the person. But if there's no medical expert there, but the person says I need to eat, you feed the person. Now the next page, page 2, the Talmud Yoma, on the same topic of what to do on Yom Kippur if someone might need to have food. What do you do? It takes it one step further. Can someone read that paragraph on page 2 under Talmud Yoma? Can we pass the mic down? Thank you.
It was taught.
It
It was taught in the Mishnah, if a person is ill and requires food due to potential danger, one feeds the person according to the advice of medical experts. Rabbi Yanai said, if an ill person says the ill person needs to eat and a doctor says the person does not need to eat, one listens to the ill person. What is the reason for this halakha? It is because the verse states, the heart knows the bitterness of its soul, meaning ill people know the intensity of the pain and suffering in their own bodies, and doctors cannot say otherwise. The Gemara says it is obvious that people know themselves better than anyone else does. What does this need to be stated explicitly? The Gemara answers, it is lest you say that the doctor is more certain because the doctor has had more experience with this condition. Therefore, the verse teaches us that even so, it is the ill person who knows their own suffering better than anyone else.
Thank you. So the Mishnah teaches us that if a doctor says the person needs to eat, they need to eat. But even if there's no doctor there and the person says they need to eat, they still need to eat. But then the Talmud takes it a step further. And if a doctor says, oh no, the person doesn't medically need to eat, but the person says, I'm feeling in my body not okay and I do need to eat, you listen to that person. That's amazing. And that's around 200 CE to 500 CE, the Talmud was redacted. So somewhere in there, to me, that's incredible wisdom of the story that we listen to our bodies. And then the Shulchan Aruch, which is our Jewish law code, and Orach Chaim, which is this great text from the 1500s, takes it even one step further. Who wants to read on the bottom of page 2, the step even farther than that? Anyone want to read that paragraph? Here we are. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch, the legal code that, teaches us.
A sick person who needs to eat, if there is an expert doctor there who says that this is a person is not fed, it is possible that the illness will get worse Needless to say, if the person might be in mortal danger, they feed the sick person on the doctor's orders. If a sick person says, I need the nourishment, even if 100 doctors says that the sick person does not need it, we listen to the sick person.
Thank you. Isn't that incredible? The Shulchan Aruch, our Jewish law code, tells us that that each one of us is more of an expert of our own body than even 100 doctors. That, to me, is pretty radical. Yeah.
What I'm going to say is at great risk because we have a lot of doctors here.
Yeah.
There used to be in the hallway here a black phone for doctors only near the main hallway. So I'm going to say this anyway, but that's why it's called practicing medicine. And
Thank you. I'm curious, the two sides of the same coin of learning from our own bodies. So when we are physically able to fast from food and to refrain from food and drink, we learn from our bodies about how we need to take care of those in our community who don't have their basic needs met. And we have to remind ourselves to listen to our bodies and make sure that our needs are being met, our physical needs are being met, because we can't be spiritually, the whole ritual of this, right, is to get ourselves spiritually fit to do what we need to do to make the world a better place. And we can't do that if we're not physically able to, if we have to, our physical ability to help people is tied to our spiritual ability. So, are there any thoughts before we move on to, yeah, Shirley. Oh wait, let's get you the mic. Yeah. Right. That's right. Oh, but for them online
we have a nurse here standing by.
That's right.
If anyone feels the slightest faint or not feeling well, we have orange juice.
That's right.
I think they have bread and food, something for them to eat.
That's right.
So that nobody should be feeling ill.
Yeah.
And it can be, as the day goes on, a person can feel very, very slight.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thankfully, everybody should know that there is a nurse here.
That's great. Yeah. We want to make sure that everyone is safe. Right. Right. Oh, wait. We have two. I think we have two people over here.
And we have doctors here.
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. No disrespect to the doctors in the room, but you work. I know you spend a lot of time learning your craft, and it is.
I think that this is amazing how this was written before there was testing for blood sugar, because maybe a doctor wouldn't realize someone had diabetes, but the person could feel their sugar dropping. So that's why we listen to the person.
That's right, absolutely. And thank God we're in 2026 with all these medical advances, and so I definitely want to make sure to make it clear we should listen to our doctors as much as possible. But when it comes to fasting, it's listen to your doctor if they say to eat, but really listen to our bodies. Yeah.
So the question I have about that is, the lady in the back who I didn't see, who was speaking, there's nurses here.
Yes.
So what if somebody feels ill during the time of fasting, but they don't want to eat anything, but they become very ill? What would determine whether they should be eating at that time? And
right, that's a good, so the flip side of that's great. And it's talked about in a lot of these texts, it's talked about a lot. The flip side of it, what if, because the truth is that it's a lifetime journey. I know for me, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but to learn to listen to your body, it takes work and it takes time, and I have to learn to do that and to trust that your body knows what it's saying. And there could be a sick person who's like, but I've been fasting my whole life and I can't bear the thought of not fasting. I have to fast. And they're not listening to their doctors and they're not listening to their bodies. So there's all kinds of conversation in the Talmud and in the text of like, do we force them to eat? But we don't want to force them to eat. Do we make sure they drink? That's why orange juice is so good, because sometimes people feel more comfortable drinking than eating, and orange juice or some kind of juice gives you that energy, so that sugar and stuff. So that's a really good question, and it's hotly debated of what do we do? Because at the end of the day, there's pikuach nefesh, the whole idea that we need to make sure that life are making sure that people are they're able to live their life, to save a life, comes before almost everything. There's a few exceptions, but almost everything. Pikuach nefesh definitely trumps Shabbat, so you can break Shabbat to save a life and all kinds of things. So what can we do to make, if it's really, because they talk in the text about, like, if it's mortal danger, like this person could really get seriously hurt by not eating, what's our responsibility? And, like, if it's, that they have to go to the emergency room and have IV, like, there's all kinds of, I mean, they didn't talk about that in the Talmud, but I'm saying we were talking about, what do we do? So there's all kinds of questions of how long do we let them be okay? And then, because you don't want them, even, like, you don't even want them to pass out, like that, yeah. So that's an excellent question and hotly debated topic of what do we do when someone refuses food and they need it. So I hope, and one more thing I want to say before we move on to Rosh Hashanah is that if we are listening to our bodies and know we can't fast, that we figure out other ways of learning the story of what it's like to not have what we need. And whether that looks like, I mean, I'm obviously a big fan of sitting in shul, and I think the prayer does a lot of the work. And I know last week Rabbi Leibovitz talked about how the work the prayer does to get us to that place. And next week Rabbi Feinstein will talk about family. And obviously there's a lot of overlap as we talk about food and family in here. But there's a lot, whether it's being with family, being in community, whether it's the prayer, there are so many different tools of the holidays to get us where we need to go. So I want to make sure that if we listen to our bodies and we can't fast, that we're still doing the spiritual work. We can all do the spiritual work even if we have to engage in food. So speaking of engaging in food, we can turn the page and I can reveal what you've already seen, which is the food of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so actually, I want us to first look at this page on the back. Nice imagery of symbolic Rosh Hashanah foods. They're called simanim in Hebrew, which means symbol or signs. So you see there's all these foods on this page, and you see here, I don't know if you can see online, but I brought real representations, and if you're watching online, maybe you have any of this in your fridge. If not, I'm sorry. But we're going to end with having some pomegranate seeds, because I figured if we're talking about it, we need to do some eating, right? If you want. So let's turn back now to the sources. So where did all these ideas of all these foods symbolizing things come from? And like we were talking about with Pesach and all the symbolic food of the Seder and Hanukkah, the symbolic foods with the olive oil. So where did these? What do all these foods mean? So in the Talmud, we have Abaye in two different places of the Talmud. Who, for two different reasons, I don't know how much Talmud study we've done, but I love how in the Talmud you're talking about one thing and suddenly you're going on to something else. And so I had a Talmud teacher in Israel once say that it was sort of like the rabbis are trying to figure out where to hang their clothes in the closet. So this saying that Abaye said fit in the closet in these two areas of the Talmud, because they're talking about signs and symbolism. So we have the ritual purposes of eating these foods for the signs and symbolisms, going back to what story they're telling. So Abaye, I'll just read this because it's a quick one. Abaye says, now that you have said that a sign or a symbol is a substantial matter, so simana, that's why we call these the simanim in Hebrew. So simana is the Aramaic for symbol or sign. In Hebrew, siman or simanim. Okay, so he says a person should be accustomed to eat at the start of the year on Rosh Hashanah, gourd or squash, fenugreek, which now you'll see in the thing, I don't have fenugreek, I have carrots. A lot of people use carrots for that one. Leeks or chard or cabbage, I brought a leek. Beets, I brought beets, and dates, I brought dates. If anyone likes to eat dates, some of you can take a date home. I'm not a big date fan. I have a few extra dates if you want. And then, okay, but where's the apples and the honey? Because to me, we're making spoiler alert, we're making a video singing apples dipped in honey for Rosh Hashanah for our video this year. If you haven't heard it being sung in the halls, you'll hear it on a small screen coming to you soon. Okay, so let's read. The Tur is another one of these Jewish law codes, another Orach Chaim looking at Jewish law from the 1300s. Does someone want to read, and is the microphone over there? Oh, you have it, thank you. Does someone want to read the paragraph at the bottom of page 3 that expands what Abaye says to more foods? Because the foods he mentioned, it was a good start, but let's add to the list. Does anyone want to read that paragraph? Oh, okay.
Abaye said, now that you have said that a sign is a significant matter, a person should be accustomed to eating citron, squash, beans, leeks, beets, and dates on Rosh Hashanah. Rasha explains that rubia is clover. Rubia, our merit should increase. Karti, the enemies should be cut off. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have read the Hebrew with it.
That's okay.
Apologies. Tamre, it should be finished. Squash, because it's quick to grow. And from this, the various customs, every place according to its custom. As in Germany, where they're accustomed to eating sweet apple with honey at the beginning of the meal to say, let this new year be sweet for us. And in Provence, they're accustomed to bring all types of novelties to the meal and to eat a sheep's head and lung to say, let us be at the head and not at the tail. And the lung, because it's light. And our teacher, Rabbi Meir of Rothenburg, was accustomed to eating the head of a ram to commemorate the ram of Yitzhak. So years ago, we went, some friends who were Sephardic, they have a Rosh Hashanah Seder.
Yeah.
And the blessings for different vegetables.
Yeah.
The leek was, like the leek, may we never lack for luck.
May we never lack for what? For luck?
Luck.
Nice. It's what? Oh, there you go. Oh, amazing. That's great. Well, that's if you look back at the back page, so you saw what? So there's no long. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and I also didn't bring a sheep's head or a ram's head or a fish head tonight because I'm not Rabbi Kushlan. Just kidding. So on this back, so you know that all of these have already a blessing from where we were looking at in the Siddur. They already have a blessing that you say. So you still say that blessing, but there is and the first one, this new seasonal fruit, if you see up in the corner, it says you say Shechianu, because that means you've had the fruit for the first time that season. So you still say Shechianu along with Borei Priya Etz or Adamah, depending on the fruit or vegetable. But then everything else has something called, it's a Yehi Ratzon formula, which means may it be your will, may it be God's will that X, Y, and Z will happen in the new year. So I called this section that it's the story of the symbolic food, the simanim on Rosh Hashanah, are it's telling us stories of what to focus our energy on in the new Jewish year. And by the way, as you see, we have some of them were developed in the Talmud with Abaye, and so somewhere between then and the 1300s, in the Tur's Orach Chaim, you get all these more, and that's where you see the apples and honey and all these other ideas. So I want us to do an exercise, but I'm gonna let us know now to have in the back of your head you can think about, because these Yehi Ratzons and these foods, it's developing over time. So like, for example, with the Seder, we have our traditional symbolic foods of the Seder that they talk about in the Mishnah and the Talmud, but a very modern custom is to have an orange on the Seder plate for a variety of reasons. It's a modern addition. So if you could put a modern addition to the Rosh Hashanah symbolic foods and where you'd want to place your energy for the coming year, and it doesn't have to be a fruit and vegetable, like you see the fish and the sheep, it could be other stuff too. What would you want to use? If you could add, and then what Yehi Ratzon, what blessing would you add to it? So let's just go through some of these that we have. So we have the apples dipped in honey, and I'll just for fun, I'll lift it up as I go, as I have it. So we have apples and honey, which by the way, I think there's some honey selling opportunity, right? Sisterhood. Does anyone Yes, can you tell us?
Unfortunately, free shipping.
It's free shipping is over.
Has passed.
Sorry.
It's $18 a jar. It's on the Sisterhood website, and it's I think $8 a jar for shipping. And it's that bottle of honey, and inside the little box you can put a message.
Okay.
Wishes for a good year, love mom and dad, or whatever.
Thank you. Okay, so that's great. And so, yeah, it's a sweet year. By the way, we say Shana Tova Umetuka, have a good and sweet year. I don't know if all of you know this, but you should all know my dog, his name is Motek, which means sweetie. So I always tell, like when I see Jewish kids I know in the neighborhood, and they say, oh, what's your dog's name? I say, Motek, like Shana Tova Umetuka, and they know it means sweet. So we ask for a sweet year. So this is a very famous Yehi Ratzon. So the formula I'll just do for the apples and honey, because to me that's like the most iconic. Yehi Ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. Shetechadesh aleinu shana tova umetuka. And then here it says kedvash, which we don't. It's very literal. But that you will renew us. Shetechadesh aleinu. You'll renew for us a good year and a sweet year. And here it says like honey, very literal, like honey. So that's that one. The pomegranate, this one is the sweet one. The pomegranate, which we will enjoy shortly, is and so the Rashi that we were reading from the Jewish law code, the Torah, it's all these plays on words. So, and also on what the food is. So because the rimon, the pomegranate, has a lot of seeds, which, did I hear someone was saying how, it's said that there are 613 seeds in the pomegranate. Have you counted? It's not true?
No, I don't know if it's for that, but I've heard it's not true.
Oh, you've heard it's not true. But okay, so try this year. But it says that our merits increase like the seeds of pomegranate, because whether there are 613 or more or less, there's a lot of seeds. So we want our merits to increase like the seeds of the pomegranate. Then we have, Abadi said fenugreek, but we somehow got permission for it to be carrots. So, because it's like, so the carrots, may it be your will that also that our merits increase. That's how they translate it in English, but if you look in the Hebrew, it says gzerot tovot, and that's why carrot, because in Hebrew, carrot is gezer, so it's all a play on words. So gezer and gzerot are the decrees, so we want to have good decrees in the coming year. So fun. Hebrew is so fun, yeah?
I have heard from somebody who had carrots on their Rosh Hashanah table, that they had carrots because the round carrots reminded them of gold coins.
Oh.
When you slice the carrots up, so you should have
Parnasa, prosperous year. So also for those, the carrot slices look like gold coins. I like that too. So again, it's all of our senses. It's not just we have fun with the play and the words, but also how it looks visually. Wait, can we get the mic over to Steve? I think.
I don't speak Yiddish, but my understanding that in Yiddish the word for carrots is mer, which is like more. So similarly, it's to be increased, to have abundance.
Yeah. I love. There's all the play with words and how it looks and how it tastes and how it feels. Okay, so I got a squash. So it could be a squash or a gourd, and that is. It's also a play on words, but it says something about our decrees. The like harshness of our decree could be torn up, and our merits proclaimed before you. I didn't bring a fish to hold up, but the fish. So the fish is like also saying that we should be fruitful and multiply like fish, and then the head of the fish or sheep, like it said in the tour, that we should be the head and not the tail. That we can all be leaders in our story, right? We can all be leaders. Okay, beetroot. That's the play on words about our foes, our enemies, that they'll be removed. And the dates also have to do with making sure that our enemies don't do well. So there's a little bit of make sure we're going to be safe. It's a hope for safety in the news. So we have so what's so interesting. There's many things interesting to me about this, obviously, but when I think about the stories the stories that our food tells on Pesach and Hanukkah, those are the two big ones I'm thinking about. But Shavuot, right? We have dairy on Shavuot. Every holiday, Shabbat with the two challahs, thinking about when we were having manna and the 2 portions of manna we'd get on Friday to take us through Shabbat. All of that has to do with the stories of our ancestors, of our people, and of our past. And what I think is so interesting to me, one of the many things that's so interesting about the story the Rosh Hashanah foods tell is actually the story of our future, where we want to go, who we want to be as who I want to be as a person, and who we want to be as a people. Because with the dates and the beats, we want to be safe as a people. And that's been something on our minds for many years now. And unfortunately, here at VBS, we have, not unfortunately, unfortunately that we need it, but grateful that we have such amazing security here. But it's something that we really think about. And in the coming year, we had to budget a lot of money for security to keep ourselves safe. So it's something we think about for our future. And then all of the merits increasing and the decrees being lessened and all of this stuff in a sweet year and a good year. I didn't say the leak, but that's also about our enemies not doing well. So 3 about safety and a couple about increasing as a people. So that's a story of our future that we want. The whole, our mitzvah, the first mitzvah of the Torah is pru urvu, that we should be fruitful and multiply. And so that's a hope for our future, that we continue to grow in our families and as a people. And so I'm curious, before we do our pomegranate tasting, did anyone think of a food that they would want to add for Rosh Hashanah this year, a story they want to tell in the coming year, in 5787, a food that could maybe help you think about where you want to put your energy in 5787? Any thoughts? Yeah.
I was thinking chocolate.
Even
though it's dairy,
Oh, I love it. Why chocolate?
But I was thinking chocolate because it's rich and sweet and to prosper.
Rich and sweet and to prosper. Yeah, so the parnasa, the richness of chocolate, that we want to have rich year. And you know what it says in our tradition in Pirkei Avot, it says, Ezehu ashir hasamech bechelko, who is rich, the one who is happy with what we have. And so there could be the wealth of that chocolate can bring us, and also the sweetness as well, connecting to a sweet new year. I love it.
And chocolate makes you happy.
Yes, right.
Most definitely.
Okay, chocolate.
Better than a fish head.
Okay, better than a fish head? I agree.
I was thinking spinach because, when you're a kid and your parents used to say, eat your spinach, you can be strong like Popeye.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the strength of the Jewish people.
Yeah, I love that. Spinach for strength. I love spinach for strength of our people. We can all be strong like Popeye. I love that. Any other foods we can add to our... Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe potatoes, maybe to be crispy and strong and tasty. I don't know.
Strong, tasty, crispy potatoes. I can work on my grandmother's Hungarian potato recipe. That's a good excuse to do that. Thank you. And also, by the way, it's not on here, but there's a tradition of having a round challah, right? What? With raisins. Do the raisins symbolize anything? Oh, the sweetness. Sure. And the round. Does anyone have a... So it's like a crown. Yeah, I feel like there's so many ways. So it could be the crown, it could be like the circle of life, round like circle like a ring, circle like time, right? The circular nature of time. Every year we celebrate. We celebrate all these holidays. So we have the Jewish calendar. We tell our stories. We read the Torah over and over and over again. There's just so many. There's so many possibilities of the symbolism of a circle that you could just. There's a lot, like everything. The rabbis say, oh, it's this, it's that. Yes.
The recipes today, a lot of them have silan, which is the date syrup.
Oh, yeah.
For in the recipes, whether it's on your chicken or your brisket or your vegetables. So Ceylon is a nice addition because it kind of combines the idea of the honey and the sweetness for the new year with the dates. The date syrup is basically what it is, or date honey is what it is. There's also pomegranate honey.
Oh, yeah.
So
There is.
Those are great things to add onto your food.
Yes. So pomegranate honey, I was
Israeli-ish too.
Yeah, I went to Camp Ramah for a day this summer, and then Rabbi Kushlan went. I went in the first month of the summer. Rabbi Kushlan went in the second month, because now they're doing a thing at Camp Ramah of clergy going to visit for a day, and you see so we had in the first month at Camp Ramah, we had from our VBS community, we had over 50 of our kids, campers, counselors at Camp Ramah. It was amazing. I got to spend time with them. And then after, Ojai has these cute little shops. So I went into the cute little shops of Ojai, and I found this honey store, and they were selling pomegranate honey. So I bought 3, one for me, for my parents, for my sister and brother-in-law. And the guy, when I bought 3, he's like, I don't understand. Everyone keeps buying the pomegranate honey. And I was like, there's probably, from the camp, there's these Jews, and anyway, I'll take 3. But yeah, I'm excited to try that. I've been saving it for Rosh Hashanah. I'm excited to try the pomegranate honey. I think it's honey infused with pomegranate, I think. Yes, I think so. Any other thoughts on a food we want to add to? I'm going to add in all of I like these ideas. Oh, the tongue of what? Of a cow. What for what? For what is it symbol?
And we make it
with the tongue. Oh. Oh, and what? And does the sweetness? But what? We don't know why the tongue. Oh, okay. Steve has an idea.
I think it's also because that our words in the new year may be, good words.
Good words. Okay.
We watch our speech.
Yeah, and that because tongue in Hebrew is lashon, and also speech is lashon. Good speech.
Cook the whole head.
Oh, wow.
The whole head. It comes with the eyes, with the tongue, and we have in the middle of the table. And the tongue is good.
Okay, if you cook the whole head, you might as well cook the tongue. All right, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's I don't think too many people today cook.
Okay. Well, I think we are, so if you want to open your Siddur, or if you already know the blessing for pomegranate, it's on 229, it's Borei Pri Ha'etz, and then we're going to do the Hiratzon. Can I, did we have one? Wait, before we do the pomegranate, one more comment. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to add lox.
Lox.
And
yes.
the reason is very specific.
Yes.
Because at the morning minyan, we are always excited when the food includes lox.
Okay, so the joy.
So we think of lox as special.
It's that we should all have a special year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think something special is important.
Okay, let's have lox. Let's add lox to the Rosh Hashanah meal so that we have a special year. We're excited, like the morning millionaires will be with the lox. Thank you for. I don't know how many there are of us and how many we've made. If maybe someone else would like to end the spoons, yes. Does anyone else want to think? If we need more, I have more of. I have more pomegranate seeds. I have more little cups. So let's see if we'll need more. I have more of everything. Yes. Yes, I counted. No, I'm kidding. 613 seeds. Right. So I would say there's the two ideas with the pomegranate seed that we're all. So I know we still have. Don't rush the new year. I know we still have some time before the new year comes. So I've heard it begins on September 11th, and it's only. It's only August 26th, or on the Jewish calendar, it's the 13th of Elul, so we still have a couple weeks. But it's good to have a little preview, a little appetizer, if you will, or Vorspeise. Am I saying that right? Vorspeise? Of the sweetness. I think pomegranates are sweet, the sweetness, but also that there's so many seeds, so may our merits increase like the seeds of a pomegranate, and also may we increase as a people, may we feel increase in whatever way we want to feel increase in our lives. But I'm gonna wait, we're gonna say a blessing together. Oh, and also you can get a spoon, or you can eat it with your hands, whatever you prefer. If we need to make more cups, we have more pomegranates, we have more cups, we have more spoons. It's etz, right? Because pomegranates come from a tree, right? Unless there's always an exception, but I think it's etz. Yeah. I think it's etz. So we'll say together. We'll say Borei Priya etz, and then if you want to look on the back of your page where it has the pomegranate, is the Yehi Ratzon. So we'll say it in the Hebrew and the English. So we'll start with the blessing. It's on 229, or if you know the blessing, Borei Priya etz, let's say it together. Did everyone get that once? Everyone got that once. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz. And now we'll say the Yehi Ratzon on the back of your packet. Yehi Ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu shenirbez chuyot kerimon. Sorry, it's a little hard to read, but we did it. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, that our merits and everything we want to increase should increase like the seeds of a pomegranate. B'tei avon. Yeah. Rimon. Right. Rimon or rimonim are plural. Enjoy your pomegranate. There's a lot more pomegranate. If you want more than this shot glass of pomegranate, there's a lot more. If anyone wants dates, we have dates, and you can schmooze. And any other questions or thoughts? I just want to say I want to wish us a sweet year, a good year, a year where our merits increase, where we all increase, where our richness increases, both in Parnasa and also in that we're all happy with what we have, that we're all the leaders in the story of the Jewish people that we're meant to be, that we're safe, and that we have a sweet new year. Shana Tova Umetuka, and I'll continue to see. And good health too. Yes, right, the listening to our bodies and good health. So all of the story of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Shana Tova. Enjoy